reception. I don't know why the heck I did this. You know, you think I like the organization or something. No? Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to introduce our first speaker, John Baldino, good friend and colleague. Just a couple of bullet points on his professional background and accomplishments. He has 24 years in human resources, 15 years in strategic roles, served in hospitality, restaurant, retail, distribution, nonprofit, education, and finance and banking. So quite a range of industries that he's worked in. In 2012, he received the Delaware Valley HR Person of the Year Award. And 2013 to 2014, he became part of the SHRM National Membership Marketing, and that is the face of SHRM membership. You may have seen his poster around. He's rather proud of that. We always, John, it's right there. A number of HR events, so it's really pretty cool. And he's a contributor to HR Matters magazine. His MS in Human Resources Development is from Villanova University, Villanova, PA. His BA in English, he's a major in English, and Education and Communication minors, St. Joe's University in Philadelphia. He's exemplified a number of abilities, that is business development strategies, talent management, alignment to corporate goals, hands-on, God bless you, hands-on approach to training, he customizes curriculum, executive and managerial coaching, bottom line results oriented, aligned with strategic goals, HR administration, compliance, payroll, benefits, etc. He has some good areas of expertise: performance management, employment law, change management, personnel compliance, workforce planning, business strategy, talent management, and succession planning, recruitment and onboarding. John is able to look at the bottom line performance indicators and guides his clients to make corrective adjustments that promote profit and health. And he's also been involved in startups, mergers and acquisitions, and expansions. John founded Humoresso, his company, to strategize with companies to develop plans to manage talent, recruit for skill gaps based on employee inventories, assess markets for growth, develop long-range succession plans, and influence a culture of enthusiastic buy-in. His company handles all facets of employee engagement and business development, providing strategic direction to help employers manage talent, recruit for skill gaps, assess markets for growth, assess competition, increase employee performance, develop long-range succession plans, and influence an enthusiastic, innovative culture. It's my pleasure to present you John Baldino.
Good morning. Always feels like a eulogy when that starts. So let me give you the non-pre-printed intro. I'm a kid from South Philly, first kid to go to college in my family, and the extended family, so first grandkid to go. Big deal, a lot of pressure, a lot of guilt, Italian Catholicism on top of me, right? I got into college. Great, you got into college. Hope you do okay. The pressure I was fortunate enough to go to St. Joe's, as Joe mentioned, and it was a great experience for me. And it was there that I was figuring out what kind of job I wanted to have. I had a job that I loved. It was bartending. It was fantastic. Great money, lots of fun people, great money. Some management skills that I picked up while I was there, what to do, what not to do. Great money. Most of it not recorded. So it's fantastic. Oh, we're taping this, darn it, Jeff, sorry. The ability for me at that point to just be a kid, right, bartending, gave me an opportunity to figure out that I really liked training. I liked helping people figure out what they should be doing. And so I was an English major, as Joe mentioned, but I thought maybe I wanted to take the education route. And so I minored in education, got my certification, actually taught middle school in Camden, New Jersey for 2 years. heaven help me. And I will tell you, the kids were awesome. The administration, meh, yeah, not so much. And that's really where I learned, it's, in some ways, we need to take a step back and fix the adults if we think the kids are going to get fixed, right? I had a principal, whose name I will not say, but rhymes with schmathy. And she would come in and look around my classroom and say, "Where'd you get that poster?" I said, "I don't know, Scholastic, I don't know, something free, because we teach in Camden, right? So wherever it came from, I didn't pay for it." She said, "I don't really like that poster. Can you take that down?" Sure. You want to talk about high schoolers, or you want to look at curriculum? Get that poster down. Sure. So she walked out the door, and literally I was right behind her, and you just hear, and I just ripped it right off the wall in my Italian, frustrated, right, yes, extremely demonstrative. And I watched her go across the hall and talk to another teacher, loud enough for me to hear, where she went on and on about the excellence in the curriculum that was being taught to those students. And I thought, if your interest was to demotivate me, good job. You did it. And as I said, I did that for 2 years before I moved on. And I appreciate what she showed me, because it was a leadership lesson for me. It helped to define the fact that I felt like adult learning was of more interest to me than child learning. That I'm grateful for. The other thing, from a leadership perspective, is walk in with the objective that you really want and be clear about it. Just walk in and say, "I don't really like you. And anything that you do is never going to make me happy." If we can put that on the table right now, we can get through a lot of the crap that we usually spend our time posturing for most of our days. You follow me on that one? Right? I would have appreciated that. She walked in and said, "I really don't like you." And I would have said, "I appreciate that. I don't care for you either." So now, what do we do with it now? Right? Either you go or I go, and these kids like me here. So we're in Camden, and your tires are being taken off right now. So it's your call. So this morning, my hope in talking about leadership is really to be about, it's twofold. One, I want to give you an opportunity for the purpose that we're here as representatives of our chapters to talk a little bit about a SHRM perspective on leadership for us back to the professionals that we serve. But I also want it to be something that you can even walk away with to be an influence in the companies that you work with, right? Because I just think that there's a business reason for leadership that can easily be overlooked. One of my favorite things to do is to watch movies. Now, we'll see if this works. Let's see. Hey. So, I enjoy movies a lot. I enjoy them even more when they pop up on the PowerPoint. But the idea for me with movies is there's always a lesson to be learned if you look for it. So think about some of your favorite movies. And you have pens in your hand, some of you. Don't say them out loud. Write down some of your favorite movies. Take a minute. Think of, I don't care what genre they're from, comedy, drama, whatever, chick flick, just write it down. How many of you have 10 already? While you're writing stuff down, it's not really that important. This 2-minute leadership, which is not uploading, you can Google that on YouTube. I encourage you to watch it. It's ridiculous. It is a 2-minute clip of all inspirational leadership quotes. So it's this mass blitz of inspiration. Braveheart, you can imagine, right? Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. You've got The Goonies. I would go toe to toe with anyone about The Goonies. Toe to toe. My children at 4 had to start watching that movie. And my wife would yell real loud when the curses were in there, right? Because she didn't want them to pick that up. Hence our parenting skills, right? You see some of the difference. It's fun. It's a great tool, honestly, to use with some of your staff back in your companies, and then obviously I think with your chapters as well, because it gets the rah-rah going, right? So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Everybody stand up for a second. My daughter plays travel soccer. How many of you are burdened with the purgatory of travel soccer? Yeah, right? Amen. We travel the state for free and kick balls into nets where we get an award for participation at the end of every season. So there's not a lot of motivation to it, but the coach, who is awesome, gets everybody at the beginning of the game to say, "I believe that we will win." So say that with me. I believe that we will win. Again. I believe that we will win. Again. I believe that we will win. Now, channel your best 13-year-old female, which is who this represents, right? So 13-year-old girls in a mass amoeba on the field saying, "I believe that we will win." So we're going to do it again, and I need it to be faster, okay? Ready? I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. Now we're going to do it again, because when they do it, they clap their hands to the same beat. So we're going to find out who has rhythm and who doesn't right now, right? So we're going to say it again as quickly, and I need you to clap with it. Ready? I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. Do you feel like you can kick a soccer ball? Right? Don't you? Do you feel like you want to kill someone, don't you? So when you can have a seat. When you get 15, 13-year-old girls frenzied, frothing at the mouth, right? We went to Beach Blast 2 weeks ago in Wildwood, New Jersey, and played soccer on the beach. Have any of you ever watched or done that? Toenails fly everywhere, right? Because they're all kicking each other, and there's nothing, right? So, Band-Aid, 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 right? That's what you see. My daughter, who is precious, a bit of an introvert, is an animal after that cheer. Just an animal. I have watched her go ponytail to ponytail with girls on the opposing team, and someone's head just doesn't make it up. And I sit with my wife and I think, that's fantastic. That coach can get this girl, who, her name is Olivia, we call her Oblivia, because usually she doesn't really know what's going on, right? And she's in another world. She's an artist. She paints. I can't begin to tell you, I'm the proud dad, right? I can't tell you how amazing she paints. She's that kind of person. Start that cheer, she's Cujo. I mean, she'll take you down. The leadership that he puts forth there, that rah-rah, has value. Has value. But I believe, connected to that, is that the man is from Scotland. He played in the Scottish national team for soccer. He can make them do things with a soccer ball that I never thought was possible for anyone. And his skill backs up the "I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win." They see his skill. They believe that when he gives direction, he's doing it from a place of knowledge and not just rah-rah. Right? Many of you don't know me. And despite the fact that I'm extremely good looking, I don't think that's enough of a reason for you to get up and do that cheer for me. But I got you all to stand up, do the clappy clap. Why? Maybe because we're HR people and that's what we do, right? I walked into with the company that I run now, I walked into a company who's still showing the fish video. And by the way, when I say video, video. We haven't upgraded to DVD yet, right? And he said, "This is awesome." And I said, "Those fish have been dead a long time." We can't just play it, right? Because we're the birthday planners, right? We have the social calendar out. Hey, everyone, you know, slam a good time. Word art is our best friend for our flyers, right? So I'm sorry, I hit nerves. I can see it. I'm sorry about that. So, this will be a joke. I will tell you that besides that necessity, and all jokes aside, there is a necessity from a cultural standpoint for that to happen. There is actually a business need behind it. One of the more recent surveys, we'll see if this now decides to work. Or not. One of the more recent surveys for Deloitte came out, and I actually have the whole report if you need it.
Move your mouse down off of the picture.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is it Sharon? No, should have backed up where you can see it.
So, it's frozen. We're not going to start singing that, though, just so you know. My 11-year-old, that's all over the house, right? We let everything go. Everything. Anytime you put a dish down, you just let it go. Let it go. Like it starts over and over and over. Sure. Thank you. Anyway, Deloitte has a leadership survey that just came out for 2014. Have any of you seen it? No? So the number one, has a global survey that just came out, and the number one need in the business community is leadership, ahead of retention, ahead of recruitment. It's ahead of specificity around talent acquisition, skill development, leadership. Pure and simple came in as number one. So group interaction. Why do you think leadership came in at number one?
Without it, the rest doesn't happen.
Okay? Without it, the rest doesn't happen. Why else do you think it came in at number one? It's not that it hasn't been on the list before. Why is it number one this year? Thank you so much.
Because it's sorely lacking.
Who said that? Because it's sorely lacking. Are you the president, or what are you? Oh, just a director. Yes, I've been in those companies. Lots of directors. Who do you direct? That's not really important right now. I'm a director. I'm just kidding. So, why else is leadership important? As a 2014 Global Human Capital Trends, this is what they're looking for. They being companies.
Goal setting.
So, goal setting. So, from a leadership perspective, companies grow and fold at a rate unlike anything we've really seen in history. The internet will close a company in 30 minutes, even if you don't intend for your company to be closed. Someone wants to say that the CEO has just died, it only takes a couple of tweets, and the CEO is dead, and stocks react accordingly. Meanwhile, the CEO is jumping up and down on Vine, filming a video saying, "No, I'm right here. Don't sell, I'm still living." Crazy, right? The whim of the people has become more of a factor in business stability. Crazy, isn't it? Before, and Joe doesn't know that he often plays into most of my, when I'm with him, most of my speaking engagements, I use a lot of material about Joe. Because it's quite easy to do that, to be quite honest with you. Joe and I had the opportunity many moons ago to work for a company called John Wanamakers. And, right, remember those department stores? Nice, right? Oh. I'm so glad everybody gets all warm and fuzzy about it. Where were you people? Why didn't you shop there for it? Then we wouldn't be closed. Everybody gets, right there. Oh, I love winemakers. No, you didn't. You loved it. Because if you loved it, you'd buy your clothes there. I saw you in Strawbridge's. Don't tell me you weren't there. So, at winemakers, we have these inter-office envelopes. That's what Joe was just talking about, right? Where you right know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Right? You write who it's to, and then they throw it in the box or whatever the overnight delivery was, and the next day it would get, somebody would walk around with a cart and drop them off, and then you would reuse that envelope and put it in there. And that we felt was business at the speed of light. Right? Now, you text each other, right? You have inter-office global communicators where you can talk real time, Insta chat to somebody in India right now, make business decisions. There's no envelopes that need to be delivered. If you don't have strong leadership, that train will derail rather quickly. So in the chapters, let's take a step back and talk chapters. In the chapters, do chapter decisions work at the speed of light?
No.
Half the room is going no, and the other half is there's no words. Why? We are the cultural ambassadors in many ways for our organizations that we work for. Why the heck in our professional development organization do we do things or allow things to go on that would really get us fired in our companies? If we said to somebody, I can't make certain decisions, why not? Well, we got to bring it to the board. Okay, there's validity to that. And then what happens after that? Well, then it goes to the subcommittee, and the subcommittee chair has to talk to the rest of the committee so that they can confirm, because they're going to be the ones that are actually acting upon it, so we need to make sure there's buy-in there as well. Okay, after that, what happens? Well, we bring it to large group membership, because they need to vote on it as well, because their dues are involved with this, and so if they don't back it, regardless of whether the leadership and the next tier of subcommittee believes in it, if the membership doesn't believe in it, then we're just not going to do it. Okay, what happens when membership says yes? Well, then we look at our SHAPE document. I love you, fellas. At our companies, when the CEO says, John, here's what we're going to do, I need you to make sure that this gets done in the next 48 hours. Let everybody know what they're going to be responsible for. Make sure that the line staff all the way down is aware of how there's going to be a process change and what that change is going to look like. Be sure that there's a manual out that they can refer to if they need to. Not only for the current staff, but for those, because we're going to need to add another 10% to the workforce in order to handle this new development phase. Thanks. My response to him isn't, well, I have to take it to committee. Right? Part of the reason we give people these titles of director or president, vice president, President Emeritus, which translates into who will never leave. That's what emeritus means. Is because we have made a concession to say we trust in the leadership of this person. We believe that he or she is going to be able to provide direction for our organization, for our companies, but for our organization, volunteer, professional development, whatever those organizations are. If leadership is important as a global trend within our businesses, I guarantee you it's important in the development of our organization as a professional benchmark. It has to be. It has to be. We love to take the leadership that we give people out of their hands. We love to do that. I feel like I'm in the first generation that actually verbalizes this truth. I hope that my children do not become president of the United States. My parents told me they hoped that I would become. I am telling my children, I hope you never do. Really. It's a thankless job. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat. I don't care if you think Obama is the devil, George Bush blew up the trade towers himself. I don't care what you think politically. I'm telling you, as a person, who would put someone in that situation? To be a target every day. What you think, what you say, what you wear, what your wife is wearing, why your wife is wearing that, who cut her hair, she put on a little weight. Look at those children. They're misbeat. Look at the dog. The dog. Who wants that? I don't want that. I don't want that for my kids. We've sort of watered down leadership. We've traded leadership for popularity in some ways, right? Now I'm going to say a name to you that you all will probably, disgust. Kardashian. So disgusting, really, I know. They get 33 more times the press than any of our elected leaders. That includes Obama, by the way. 33% more press. Guess what they're doing?
Nothing.
Nothing. It's true, right? Man, you are fired up about it. She's going to flip that table. You guys they're doing nothing. They're tanning. They're shopping in the Riviera. Having babies. Right? Getting married. That happens all the time. I'm going to a wedding tomorrow. Happens all the time. But the Kardashians getting married. Oh. She's only going to do it 6 or 7 more times. What's the big deal? I want to talk about a couple of reasons, I think, as well, why this is happening now. There's a desire for true north. We are looking for leaders who really can provide a compass, a direction that will keep us on the right path, in the right manner that society is moving, or stronger, society should be moving. We're looking for leadership that's going to stay on track all the time. When you guys know True North, right? You know this from a compass. Those of you that were Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, I know you know it, right? So it's always going to point north. We want someone who can be that firm, who can be that steadfast, who's not going to be dissuaded by the press, by popularity numbers. Oh, so-and-so's down in the polls. So what? I'm down in the polls a lot in my house. I get to be a leader in my home. Please, that's what I believe. Don't tell me differently. I get to be a leader in my home, and I know my numbers are down some days. When I tell my children, no, you cannot go to Hollister again and buy whatever it is. We're going to go to Payless and get your sneakers. Dad, yes, I can't wear Payless sneakers. I will take that into consideration. You will. They're for gym. We're going to Payless. But Dad, I have heard your complaint. It's over. Now, that leadership, if my children are poll numbers are taken at that point, guess where they're going to be? Right? Does that mean I'm going to be voted out? My wife's going to pick out somebody else who will let their children get shoes from Hollister. We also have a size and a scope that is kind of in a new phase of economic development for the organizations that we work for. Obviously, the geography is much larger for many of the companies that you work with. There's a lot more M&A going on, and mergers and acquisitions, sorry. Some of you are like, I haven't tried that candy yet. There's also global marketplace considerations as far as cultural influence can be. When Lee Iacocca brought Chrysler back from the grave, those of you that are old enough to remember that with me, right? If Lee were to take those same business tenants and go over to Japan at the time? Not the same process. He's not going to be looked on with the same reverence that he was here in the US. It's not that it's wrong, it's different. So how do you bring that leadership today in a microsecond? Because that's how quickly people can access information. Did you ever think you'd live at a time when 24-hour news broadcasts were showing you things that you're like, why do we see this? I don't want to know. And I don't only mean the fodder that they try to fill the hours with. I mean waterboarding, prison torture. I mean things that, honestly, I'm not advocating for it. This stuff has gone on for years, but now somebody's got a camera and we can see it all and we're outraged. My grandfather was in the war. My grandfather told me stories that I wish he didn't have to go through. But now it's broadcast and it changes the whole dynamic of how our leaders have to respond. That pressure is crazy. If you're a business owner, your pressure is multiplied if you have a publicly traded company, right? You cannot get away with anything. And I'm not talking about ethically. I mean, even the small decisions. Everything is dissected. So you don't even want to make a decision. When it comes to size and scope, you have to be able to stand and say, I believe in this. I believe in this. And the only way that you're going to get me to not do this is to fire me. That kind of conviction, even if you're fired, is often picked up at another company. If you read stories today about leaders who were canned at a previous company because they stood firm to what they believed, watch the other companies that pick them up. Look at the trajectory of growth in those companies. It outperforms the companies that they left by 1.5 times. That's significant. Every company wants that extra 0.5%, right? We need it. Quickness. Now, to come back to the chapter. The pace that we do things may not be in keeping with the way that businesses are asked to do things. So why? Well, if you're wired to have to respond at a certain pace because of the company you work for, and then you get involved with the local SHRM chapter, which does not move at that pace, which one seems irrelevant? The chaplain. If I'm trying to tell someone who's an HR professional, this is for your professional development, and they watch some, please hear me, I'm on the board at Tri-State. I am, and Joe teased me, I am the face of SHRM membership, frightening for them, that I am the face. So my heart's in this, I believe in it. If they walk in and see stagnation, and they see a chokehold on the way in which this organization can move, am I really selling professional development? How am I developing in their profession to be relevant in the business community that they're serving? It's a tougher sell. In leadership, we need to be able to have an ability to make quick decisions when need be. I'm not saying it's a coup, get rid of the board, kill all the emeritus people that are still on your boards. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that, Joe. I might think it once in a while. We have to be able to have more of a fluidity, a reactive group. Because we're trying to espouse that in the companies we work for. That dichotomy is not going to work for very long in our organizations. We have to think through that. Look at your bylaws. Look at the process. What needs to be upgraded? What needs to be thrown out completely? What needs to be added? Look at those bylaws clearly. I would give you that advice when it comes to leadership. Part of the problem, even coming back to the president conversation, is there's really a desire to have Superman. Now, some of the most popular movies right now, right? Superhero movies. Guardians of the Galaxy last night. That superhero thing is of appeal to a lot of people because we really want that. We want the hero. It's a lot of pressure to be a hero. A lot of pressure. How many Supermen have you ever met in your life? Raise your hand if you've met a Superman or Superwoman.
Besides Joe.
Besides Joe. Gosh. Part of my goal today is to set a higher standard. Half the people who engage with Joe are confused and think that he's Santa and are hoping for a good present this Christmas. That's what I hope for. Poor Joe. All right, so let's drill down. I believe in being extremely practical. So this is both for your business and for your chapter. We talked a little bit about responsiveness. There's a demonstrative way that responsiveness makes a difference, and that's through attention. Your face, right? Your response time to things shows attention. Have you ever been in a board meeting, not only for a chapter, but maybe within an organization, depending upon the level of position you have, and sit with somebody who says, I asked you about this about a month ago. Did you ever get those numbers for me? And you swallow hard because you think, holy crap, I don't even remember you asking me for that, let alone doing it, right? And you do that sweat thing, right? And then you scurry in your brain as fast as you can as to how am I going to package this? So I can say that I didn't do it, but at the same time not make it sound like I didn't do it, right? I know the game. I sit in those meetings. And usually I do that stop thing. Is somebody, well, oh yes, oh right. I remember that when because everything else you're going to tell me right now is not true. So stop before you say it. I'm giving you the out. You just didn't do it, right? You just didn't do it. Right, I didn't do it, but right? Don't say anything else. I got it, you didn't do it. Can we have a timeline, right? A week from today. Can we redo that? Everybody on the same page? Fantastic, a week from today. Thanks, John, but just stop. Intuition is a very difficult thing. Why? Because it's not taught. There's an intuitiveness that everybody has, it's just sharper or duller within certain people. Being intuitive means you have to have a sensitivity to the environment. You have to look around and see what everybody else is dealing with, see how what Joe is doing affects Sue, affects Mark, affects Teresa. You have to have the ability to do that environmental scan. Ooh, there's a term. That sounds really HR, doesn't it? We only do that externally. You're allowed to do it internally. There's no law against it. Do the internal environmental scan. Not for competition, but for cohesion, for workflow, for skill assessment. Some of you have people in your organizations that you've allowed to be in the wrong position for too many years. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Is that clear? I know, I'm just a jerk. I'm serious. Get rid of them. Either transfer them to a department where they could do a little damage, or fire them. Or as I like to say, I'm freeing you to find something that aligns with your skill set in a more productive way. Isn't that awesome? I've had people look and go, are you firing me? Is that what that means? Yes. But I do believe in that. I believe that there are people in the wrong jobs. And they'll stay there for 20 years and suck the life out of not only you, but the organization. And some of them, I know you won't believe me, some of them don't really want to do that. They actually don't want to be the vampire. They just don't know what else to do. There's no leadership moving them in a direction. Their intuition doesn't work for them at the level that you would hope for it to. I love this quote. Set strategic direction that is in alignment with a greater truth. If they cannot figure out what the greater truth is, they'll never align to it. It's a theory, it's not practical. help them figure out how to be practical. And if it's not answering the phone in customer service, and it's better in the mailroom, put them in the mailroom. If it's not in any position within the organization, put them in the unemployment line. Do it. Instead of having meeting after meeting with your superiors saying why you haven't done it yet, why this department is underperforming, why our chapter cannot seem to make things happen with our membership drives. Look at the people who are in charge of membership. If they stink, put them out of their misery. I remember organizations where you only had a term for 2 years. That seemed to be okay to me because people get bored or you find out that they are awful and you know you only have to deal with them for a certain amount of time, right? That was my perspective. I have to tell you, a year into it, I have no problem coming up alongside somebody and saying, you have another year left in your role. Let's figure out a transition plan right now. Because you don't like what you're doing, we don't like what you're doing, but we love you enough to want to find something that makes sense for you. That's okay. If we're HR professionals and can't have those discussions, how are we professional development? It's not about being mean. It's about setting people up for success and aligning them correctly and being responsive to that, not letting it fester like a sore. Ooh. Ooh. And being, obviously, again, being timely about it. Your passion will show through in your timeliness. If it takes you forever to do something, you're giving a message that it's not that big of a deal for you. And those that are observing understand that it's not a big deal for you. If that's not the message that you want to send, then you've got to be timely about your response. Act upon the intuitiveness that you've observed. Right? I feel this, I sense this, here's the facts behind it, that's why I feel this way, I'll talk through it with 1 or 2 people, fantastic, I'm going to sit with Joe and say, Joe, I love you, bud. I love you, bud. And I want to be timely about it. 2 years ago, I got to be conference chair at Tri-State, which, off the record, I found out, right, is labeled purgatory in our bylaws. And so I was like, sure, I was co-chair the year before, sure, I'll be chair this year. And I got a list of everything that I'm supposed to do. Now, again, many of you don't know me, but you probably have a little bit of a sense that when I'm given a list of what I'm supposed to do, I may not do it. So I sat with the list and I went through it and I decided what made sense to continue and what didn't. And what process made sense to continue and which one didn't. And so I doubled the number of people on the committee, divided the work up differently, had engaged subcommittees that were allowed to make decisions independent of the rest of the committee for the conference. And they came back to the monthly conference meeting with the results, with the decisions they made and the results that they could show. And those meetings were insanely productive. We have an admin who has worked for Tri-State for a number of years, who's also on that committee, and after the second meeting, she said to me, I have never seen anything like this. I said, okay, I'm in trouble? Because I'm okay with that, but I just want to know if I'm in trouble. And she said, no, I don't think you're in trouble. I think it's going to be awesome. And we had the largest conference we've ever had, sold out, made a boatload of money, and everybody thinks Baldino is awesome. I want to tell you something, I'm really not. Because if I didn't put the right people in the right positions in those subcommittee chairs, I'm just a figurehead. After that, I'm okay with that. I'm pretty. I can sit, I'll take the pictures with the rest of the committee, who actually put traction to the strategic plan that we had around the conference. And they were free to act in all these ways. It made a remarkable difference. And the conference was a success. Yay, conference leadership. Not yay Baldino, not yay Tri-State. Yay for them, because you know what? Many of them now have walked back into their places of work and are using those same things that they learned from a leadership perspective back at the organizations that they work for. That's what we should be doing. That's their professional development, correct? That's what being a part of the organization should do for people. Now, this will make you laugh. How many of you think that the people that you work with like you? For real. How many of you think people that you work with like you? Have you ever asked them? Have you ever asked them if they like you? Have they ever, of their own volition, told you that they like you? Yes. Thank you. I mean, I'm not trying to force you to think that I hate all of you. I mean it that it's okay that there's some affirmation. You need that. If you're not getting any of it, then I don't know how approachable you are. If you're not likable, you're not going to get the biggest bang for your buck in the role that you're in, whether in the volunteer chapter or the role that you have or in the organization that you serve. If you are a nasty individual, you're a nasty individual. Nobody wants to be around you. I'm from South Philly, once again, and I learned a lot of lessons that are extremely inappropriate. And my grandfather, who has moved on from this world many, many years ago, and I have lots of reasons why, but one of them is he told me when I was a kid, and I will tell you I was probably about 6 years old, a next door neighbor came in and sat for a while and was chatting with him and then left, and when that person left, and this is the God's honest truth, he took out a can of Lysol and sprayed down where the person was sitting. And I was 6, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Johnny, ugly is catchy."
Wow.
And I remember thinking, well, yes, she was not that pretty, I guess, but I didn't realize at 6 that you could catch that, right? So, these are life lessons that stay with you forever, right? And I remember thinking, that poor girl. At 6, I remember thinking, that poor girl. Because she's ugly. I didn't think she was ugly before somebody told me she was, by the way. It changed the way that I would approach her, I will tell you, and she has gone on from this world as well, but it changed my approach when I dealt with her all the days that I was with her. Our words impact how likable somebody might be. Isn't that crazy? He said a lot of crazy things, I will tell you, so that's just one. During lunch, whoever wants to sit with me, I will scar you for life. I have walked into HR offices in organizations, and what I see is the top of the head, because you're at your desk. Or I see the side of your face. Because the chairs are here, who has the setup, right? The L. Right? The chairs are here so we can sit, and my tissues are right here. And over here, right? 95% of the time when I walk into those offices, I see the side of you. Hi, can I bother you for a second? Sure, have a seat. Let me just finish this real quick. The body language and the eye contact, I'm not really sure you're going to be inviting people in. Right? Make a deliberate decision sometimes to not type. Face forward. Get a tablet. And even have the tablet in front of you and do some work that way. So that when somebody comes in, you can just look straight up. Hey, how are you? Come on in. Sometimes being likable is as simple as the greeting. Right? Oh, they're in HR. I only go to HR when I have an issue, right? My paycheck, right? That's what my benefits, my manager, right? Everybody walks in, right with the accents are right on the syllables they need to be. They're ready to go right at it. I want people to walk in sometimes and say, hey, I have a question for you. I have a problem with a coworker. I totally plan on taking care of it myself. I'd like to run by with you a couple things I'd like to say. You tell me what you think. Sure. I'm going to say A, B, and C, whatever it is. And I say, that's awesome. Oh, I should say all that? Oh, no, you should not say all of what you just said. What's awesome is you've given thought to that. I love that. Are you asking me for permission, or are you asking me because I might be able to help tweak a few things? I still want you to have that conversation. Can I tweak a couple of things for you? Yeah, that's why I came here. Bingo. That's what you're waiting for. That's the response. That's why I came. Then you start to know, from a confirmation standpoint, that you have that demeanor going on. You follow me? Hi, do you have a minute? Already I know. Sometimes I'm like, who is it? What did they do? Just hurry up, right? Who touched you? Fill out this form. Just hurry up. So authenticity, like for some people, pours out of their pores, right? There's times for me, I can't be any more authentic sometimes, right? It's just that what you see is what's there. But that authenticity is appealing and attractive in a leadership quality. In Tri-State, where I get to serve, and I used to be a part of SHRM years ago, in Tri-State where I serve now, the authenticity around the organization is key and paramount to the longevity of its impact in the community. For your chapters, I believe the same thing. If there isn't an authenticity around your organization, and by authentic, I don't just mean we smile when new people come in. We give them a free dinner to come back. Ooh, are we awesome? I'll give you the $40. That's not what I want this thing to be about. It's not a raffle, right? We're not so glad that you're here. You know, like how many of you were in a fraternity or sorority? Yes, right? Raise your hand. You should be proud. Raise your hands if you pay for your friends. Raise your hands. Yeah. Okay. So in those organizations, you are making a decision as someone who's looking to pledge that you want to engage at that level with people. Right? You're making a decision to do that. I assume that when people decide to get involved with the chapter, or people come to work at the organization where I am. I assume the positive. You want to be here. Until they tell me differently. And when they tell me, which happens, I don't want to be here anymore. You know what I say? Bye. I'm so sorry you feel the way. I had no idea. How long have you not wanted to be here? I haven't wanted to be here in like 6 months. Well, what did you wait so long for? Well, I have a kid, I have this. And what have you been teaching your child over the last 6 months? What anger looks like? Bitterness? Frustration? Stress? A possible stroke? Were they the lessons you were hoping for? Because that's probably what you did. Oh, should I not be saying that? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What was the outcome you were looking for over these 6 months? I was trying to find another job. How can I help you find another job if I don't know that you want another job? I should know that. Wherever you go from here, because you're not going to be here long, maybe another hour, you're not going to be here long. The next place that you go, if you find yourself feeling that way, seek out the resources. Well, I never felt comfortable that I could come to you. Why didn't you feel comfortable? Ask the question. Why didn't you feel comfortable? Because my problem is with Sue, and you are friends with Sue. I'm telling you something, I have sat in those hard conversations where people have thrown that at me. I need to hear that. I need to know that my relationship with a coworker has been translated as something of a different level than how I engage with everybody else. And I don't mean inappropriate. I mean, if that person's a problem and you can't come talk to me, that is a problem. It impacts the authenticity of the organization. It impacts the honesty, because now we have to keep things from certain people. Right? That's, by the way, that's the opposite of honest, when you have to keep things from people. I understand the game that we have to play. I know the logic behind some of that. this quote from, any of you follow or read stuff that Kevin Cruz does? If you don't, you should. He said, leaders realize that to nurture individuals and to nurture a company requires hard work and patience. But, and I love this, the approach pays large dividends over time. The approach. You set the tone. When and Joe knows what I'm about to say, when folks come into Tri-State for the first time and see a whole bunch of people that love each other, I love that. That are laughing with one another, that are encouraging one another. I love that. Because I believe in what we're doing. When I feel like it's going too far and it's a click, then the approach has just changed. In our chapter, and one of the things I'll get to talk about with social media a little later, but in our chapter, I get to be involved with the young professionals in our group. You want to know what I did this year? As a leader, I had all those folks come to my house. Not PJ Willihan's, although we do that. I brought them to my house. And I had my wife and to help me to host and to have food around for everybody and to have drinks. And you know what else I did? I did it at a time after work when I knew my kids would be around. And so my kids were there for a brief period of time. Okay, go ahead. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? It's authentic. Transparent. I could not predict what any of my 3 children were going to tell these people. I have great kids, but I could, like, if I did something habitually in that house, my children, especially my youngest, would turn and say, oh, my dad does that all the time. Really? What else does your dad do? Well, and Cassie would go on with her list, no problems. I couldn't predict that. But the authenticity of it for me was not just about the professional Tri-State organization, it was about the fact that there were a dozen 25-year-olds in my home who were in their first job, out on their own, and I wanted them to see what life could look like. Because I have a pretty good life. And I wanted them to see what life could look like within the context of pursuing a career in human resources. You can have a life. You can have a home. You can have kids. You can have a spouse that puts up with you. You can have those things. And you know what? I don't have to be ugly and bitter about the road that it took for me to get here. Those people now, I mean, after doing that, half of them signed up to be on committees within Tri-State now that they hadn't done before. And now they're telling other colleagues that are their age to come. All I did was have them at my house. I had pizza. Right? How much leadership did it take for me to do that? Other than having to take my wife out to dinner 2 days later to thank her for everything. Date night, excuse me, sorry. Those of you that have kids, you know that's such a joke, right? The date night thing. It's just a joke. Because we just sit and talk about the kids, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about the kids, let's talk about something else. Okay. I talked to my mom, oh no, we're not going to talk about your mother either, that's not. The last thing I would say is about the mission of the chapter as well as your organization. And this gets a lot of lip service. I love mission. I love it. However, I am a part of enough organizations to recognize that consistently we don't deliver the same message as much as we ought. We have nuanced changes in our messaging sometimes. We talk about authenticity and transparency. This is where it's going to affect the core strategy behind the organization. if your emotionalism is not kept in check, and I know there's some of you in here that are emotional people. I'm not alone. I know that there are. If that emotion isn't kept in check, then everything that you bring to the table is going to be categorized under a reactionary approach, and that undermines your ability to engage with leadership at the level that you need to. Right? If you lose your mind over everything, then that's what you'll be known as. One of the best pieces of advice I got early on in my career was very simply, choose your battles. Very simply. And there are times when I walk in and I hear the mess of whatever somebody is saying they want to do, and I count backwards from 10 in my brain, and I say, do I care? And I measure how much I really care. And there are times I realize I do, and I should, and here's the business reason why I should care. And then I will open up my mouth and say, by you doing that, here's what it does to the budget. Here's where that money that was not budgeted for is going to come from. It's going to come from here. When you do that, you impact this, this, and this for me, for employees, for this department. Even if it doesn't affect me directly, you're now taking money from the accounting department that they were going to use for this new software purchase. I have an issue with this. Let's talk about it. Oh, come on, John. We'll find the money somewhere. Where? Wherever you find that money, tell me, because I want some. But there are times that I have to say, I need to let these folks hash that out. I don't need to lose my mind and join in. I'll listen. I'll be a resource. But I'm not going to lose my mind and join in. I've sat with people, and I have listened to them tell me in an impassioned plea why A, B, or C should happen. And I always want to come back to the mission and to what that will look like down the road. Does that correspond to our vision? Mission and vision, I will tell you, I could throw up right here on this carpet. Right? Mission, vision, a seat at the table, right? I'm just over all of that terminology, but I don't want to be over the fact that there's truth to those things. I just think it's different. We have to figure out different ways to approach it. Right? You know what I mean? It's like exercise. How many of you had a thigh master? Thank you. Because Suzanne Summers did not get rich by accident. Let's be honest. It isn't her acting ability. It's because of the thigh masters, right? So, sorry, Suzanne. Think about Jane Fonda. How many of you had those albums and were doing the leg warmers and all, right? Right? Some of you are like, Jane Fonda, what? How many of you had Tybo? Let's pull out those Tybo discs. Come on. Sweating to the oldies? Richard Simmons? Don't. Right. Amen. I'm so proud of you. I just want you to know I'm super proud of you. Because you're admitting all this, right? The trends change. Right, we see this. The trends change all the time. My wife brought this disc home to do exercise with, and I'm like, pilots? What the heck are pilots, right? And then she said, well, okay, sit and do pilots with me, and then let's see what you think. And I was, you know what I mean? It's crazy. 8-minute abs, 7-minute abs. 6-minute abs. Still your abs. The trends come and go, but the core behind exercise, obviously we still can speak to the merits of it, right? Mission and vision, we still can speak to the merits of why we need consistent mission messaging, consistent production of vision. We can still speak to the merits of that. It's the trend behind the display that we have to think about a little bit more. It's different for the 25-year-old than it is for the 35-year-old than it is for the 45-year-old. It is. There are times that I sit in offices and I will hear people, I've worked in companies, where they just go crazy about insane things. I saw her. I saw her too. You saw her? I saw her. You saw her? I saw her. Oh. Hi, why did you see? Flip-flops. What? She was wearing flip-flops. Oh yeah, they have a flower on them and stuff, but it's still flip-flops. How long long have you guys been in this meeting? About 20 minutes. What's the answer to the flip-flops? She can't wear them. Okay? Did somebody tell her? Well, that's what we're figuring out. Right, it's funny because, right, this is our lives. I'm like, I'm sorry, one second, right to the phone, speaker. Sue, hi, it's John, how are you? Hi, John, hi, how are you? Good, good. Listen, I hear you're wearing flip-flops today. Tomorrow, don't wear flip-flops anymore, cool? Sorry, John, no problem. Okay, bye. Did I help? Right? Are we good? Is there more? Is there an epidemic of flip-flops? Should I just do the full announcement? How does that time, how do we get that time back? Because you could have been using that 20 minutes to do this instead of flip-flops. And I get why flip-flops are important, I get it. But it only took me, really, and by the way, that story, 100% true, that's exactly what I did. It took me about 30 seconds to do all that. But I don't need to die on that hill. I'm choosing my battles. The battles that I want to fight, I'm telling you something, I stood up in office is basically doing the whole Jennifer Holiday. I'm not going, right? I just start going crazy with all that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with Jennifer Holiday, you'll have to find some soul deep in your bodies somewhere. YouTube that today. It's a requirement. Jennifer Holiday, and I'm telling you, I'm not going. Some people think Jennifer Hudson did it. Yeah, no. Jennifer Holiday, the original Broadway actress. Then come talk to me. Jennifer Part 2, don't have anything on Jennifer, the original. Right? Thank you. Anyway, that song gets you all, I mean, after that song's over, you want to talk about I Believe We Will Win, I mean, you're just ready to go. You punch every guy who ever broke your heart, right in the face. One of the things, and I know it's not going to show here, Steve Jobs does a great 3 minutes on what his board meetings are like. It's great for you to watch. Not just for your chapters, but within your business organization as well. They ask Steve, it's kind of an interview, but he talks for most of it. They ask him, Steve, how's your company structured? He said, our company is still structured. This was the last year he was alive. He said, our company is still structured like a startup. There's one person in charge of iOS. There's one person in charge of Safari. There's one person in charge of other Mac software. There's one person. And he said, we have a board meeting for 3 hours every week where we all get together and talk about everything we're doing. We function like a startup, a really big startup, but a startup. And they talked about the sharing of ideas, and he said, that will never go away. We share ideas all the time. And they said, well, what about your ideas? He said, I still share ideas. And they said, what do you do when people don't agree with you? Do they not agree with you? Because you're Steve Jobs. And he said, they don't listen to me all the time. All the time. But you have to have that in the organization. That has to be the tone of the organization. If we're going to push the organization forward and keep it aligned with our mission, and push the vision of what we're trying to get to, even though I would like it to be all about me, it cannot be. It won't work. So for you, how do you do that? How do you push that forward? Simply, it's commitment. How many of you are married? Keep your hands up. How many of you were married? Okay. So here's one of the things, thank you. Here's one of the things that I will tell you about marriage. And I've been married for 16 years. And it's been great. It's been great. She's not here, which is part of the reason it's been great. She gets a break from me. When we were dating, I told her, I want you to understand something. If this is going to keep going the route that it seems like it's going, I'm high maintenance. I'm the only person in the relationship that can be high maintenance. If you have any designs of being high maintenance, we're done. Because I I can't have you be high maintenance. It doesn't work for me. She said, I'm not high maintenance. I think you probably figured that out, and I knew that. And she said, I realize that you are high maintenance, and I'm willing to move forward with that. And we dated for 8 months, got engaged, got married 8 months later. And it's worked. Why? Because we set the expectations pretty clearly at the beginning. When I push the envelope too far, we come back to this language a lot, commitment. Because for us, even though the expectation's been clear from the beginning, we have to come back to the commitment around those expectations. It's okay if I know it, but I may not want to be connected to it anymore. You see the difference? I may know what this company is all about, and at one point, I loved it. Right now, not so much. Maybe I'm not committed to where it's going. There are people within our chapters, some of whom, all jokes aside, have been around a long time, and they're not feeling it anymore. I don't want to lose those people. I need the history of those people to build a bridge to those that are coming in. I have to figure out a way as a leader to build that bridge and come back to commitment. It's about the ideals, the mission, and the vision of the organization. Who's raising that banner? Look around your chapters and figure out who's raising that banner. I hope it's more than one person. I hope it's a team of you. Because honestly, there's not a vacation from it. If you possess it, it's something you possess every day. In the business community, and I'm going to strike a chord for a minute. In the business community, in the HR arena, in my experience, I've watched a lot of HR professionals come in with a lot of vim and vigor when they first start. And then they get beaten down by the environment sometimes that they serve in. They get beaten down by one or two individuals. They get beaten down by process. And they stay at the job for 15 years. If you're not committed, move on. If you're not committed to what's going on in the chapter, move on. You don't have to hate on it, just move on. But if that's not the case, if there's still an ember in there that just needs to be relit, then you owe it to yourself. Find the ways to fuel that again. Remember the fact that you walked into an organization and you found it likable. You found the people likable. You found the mission one that you can get behind. You found people that you could walk up to and everybody was so approachable. And now you sit X amount of years later and none of that's true anymore. Go back. Set a different tone. That's something that no one can take from you. That's still your ability. If those folks don't want to get on the train, then that's their decision. Don't let it impact the leadership that you bring to the table. You're letting folks take from you what isn't theirs to take. In our chapters, I get Gen Y, Gen X, baby boomers. I understand all the generational stuff, but at the end of the day, I believe everybody is still looking for this. They want to know what they're a part of is committed to them, committed to excellence in their professional development, committed to the relationships that are going to happen as a result of being involved in the organization. They want to see stability in that. We can do that. You people laugh with each other all the time, do you not? Some of you cannot wait to be with each other. That's something that we can translate. When people hear Joe and I banter back and forth, they don't really think that we hate each other. We've done a good job of hiding that. What they think is, these two like each other. They're funny. They have a good time with each other. What they have to understand is, that comes from an investment. That comes from a commitment. Leadership is the same way. When Joe and I partner on things together within our chapter and demonstrate leadership as a result, we have each other's back. And that's a great place to be. Even if within the organization that you're a part of, you don't feel like there's anybody who has your back, you're wrong. Look around. We're in the same boat when it comes to this. Our leadership is not in a vacuum. We have support. We can work through these things together and come up with plans of action, immediate action, that are going to make an impact. When I was, and I'll close with this, when I was a teenager, I cut lawns. That's what I did. 13 years old, I started my own lawn cutting business. And at 15, I was allowed to get working papers and have my own job. My first job was at Friendly's. I was a dishwasher. It was awful. But I loved it, right? I worked that first summer for Friendly's, and the town that I lived in, they had a huge July 4th event. Fireworks galore at the high school, just crazy. And after it, everyone would go to Friendly's for ice cream. Everyone. In the dish area, I could not see the everyone that was coming in. So I knew all my friends were coming, but I couldn't see them. So I would take a minute or two to kind of put my head around and, Jim, right, Anthony. We had all Italians. Jim was the only Irish guy we let hang out with us. And so, but it was all for like 10 seconds because I'm working and I was still nervous, right? At 15, I'm like, I can't get in trouble. Back to the dish room. My parents went to a 4th of July party that night. I was 15, I did not have a driver's license. I could drive, but I didn't have a license. I could hotwire a car, but I did not have a license. You think I'm joking. And so, my parents went to this party, and I got done at 1 o'clock in the morning. I understand child labor laws. I'm with you. Okay. I got done at 1 o'clock in the morning. I was covered in, literally, hot fudge and caramel. There were vats of hot fudge and caramel. And I, as a dishwasher, had to climb inside them to scrub everything out at the end of the night. So that they were that pristine stainless steel, right? And I did a great job because I was new. I was pumped. I was proud. I was covered. That particular evening, we didn't have to wear our uniforms. Our boss said, in celebration of 4th of July, it's free dress. Whatever you want to wear, cool. So what did I wear? Jams. Because it was 1984, and I was wearing jams. And a t-shirt, and my yellow Chuck Taylor Converse. Despite what my head looks like, I am a relatively hairy individual. My legs participated in the hot fudge and caramel. At 1 a.m. I called my parents to let them know I was done and they could come pick me up because that's what my mom said to do. There was no answer on the phone. I waited 2 more minutes, called my parents again. No answer. Pre-cell phones, all that stuff, just the house line. My manager said, you gotta go. We're done, we're closed, you're the last employee, I'm locking the door. I said, no problem. And I had to walk, literally, 2.5 miles to my house, covered in all this crap. For the first mile, I was pretty decent. And it was about after that first mile, I started to hear the looking around. Some muted sort of moan. Then starts getting closer. Meow, meow. I'm looking across the street, and the cats are beginning to find me. And so for the last mile and a half, thankfully I was on the track team, I had to work at a pretty good clip while this posse of feline chocolate lovers followed me all the way home. It was somewhere in that last mile and a half that the tears began to fall down my face. And the complete and utter disgust for my parents and their inability to parent well. And I got home, and the car was there. And something in my mind about MF or something or other started. And I opened the front door, and my mom was there. Hi, honey. Total HR. How was work? Did you have a good time? I didn't get a call. Yes, you did. I know this house. Oh. Well, we got home about 10 minutes ago. I'm like, well, that's why you didn't get the call. I just walked all the way home. She's like, did you have fun? I don't remember. I just ran from cats. And classic Italian, my mom said, okay, go say goodnight to your father. So I walk in the bedroom. My dad's there. You all right? I'm fine. Like, I mean, you can see the streak. I look in the bathroom, streaks from the tears through the hot pouch. He said, you all right? I said, I'm fine. He said, what's the matter? I said, I called, nobody answered. He said, we were out having a good time. I said, but you were supposed to pick me up. He said, that's what happens in work. You think something's going to happen, and it doesn't, and you have to adjust. What did you do to adjust? I said, adjust? I just ran 2 miles from cats. What are you talking about? He said, are you hurt? No. Did you make it? Yes. And you figured out a way to handle it. Good night. I come out in the hallway, my mom's there, of course she heard everything, and she said, are you okay? I said, Mom, what? He's right. Okay. I showered, and I got in bed, and I have to tell you, that has stuck with me all these years, because I keep going back to it and thinking, you know what? It doesn't always go the way that I think it should go. My parents should have picked me up that night. I was mad. But I didn't sit on a street corner and cry until somebody picked me up or somebody else handled my problem. I figured it out. I took the leadership for myself and did that. And now when I get to talk to my kids or other folks like you and I share that story, it should remind each of us the ways in which we've taken leadership for ourselves in situations that we've been put in. And as a result, it should embolden and encourage you to know you can do that within the chapter that you serve, within the organization that you're a part of. It isn't up to anybody else. You can figure out solutions. It's better when you have partners with you, I get it, but it may not always be the case. Take the lessons that you can lead in for yourself and allow that to mirror what you will do as a result within the other people that you get to be connected to. Use it as a mirror. I will be around. I'm going to do the thing on social media a little later, but thank you. And if you've got questions, I'll take them, but thank you very much.